You are listening to The Essence of Spiritual Practice, a collection of Tamil poems and songs composed by Sri Sadhuom, a direct disciple of Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharishi. O Sri Ramana, bestow your grace upon me so that I may, in experience, flawlessly attain the unequaled and unsurpassed essence of the practice of self-knowledge, the excellent path who am I, which you have discovered to be the central and foremost among all the various paths. O Sri Ramana, the heart, who through your grace protects me at every moment by guiding me along the correct path, rise from within and teach me the true import of your divine and unequaled teachings. Among countless births, one like this birth of ours is very rare to achieve. When Lord Ramana has assumed a sacred body on earth, we have attained the blessed boon of becoming slave to his holy feet. However, many crores of births they may take, it is indeed very difficult for anyone to have an opportunity of gaining such a great benefit as that which is gained in this birth of ours, in which we have come to the feet of Bhagavan Ramana, who is a rare treasure for the world. So great is the benefit of this birth. The wealth of the Almighty Sri Ramana's enlightenment is a treasure that is ever available to be plundered by all people who want it, and however much it is plundered, it will never decrease even in the least. However, only good people who are true devotees know how to plunder it, and though other people who are too immature to go near the treasure, they cannot see anything there. Sri Ramana, the bestower of grace, will never give the least dissatisfaction to those who weepingly pray to him. Make me your possession. I know that our Lord uses countless inexpressible tricks in order to protect and save those who have become his slaves. What our Lord uses to save us are tricks of grace. Even by the skill of our intellects, it is impossible for us to know all those tricks. If he wishes, even an ocean will enter and disappear into a mustard seed. Therefore, as soon as the glance of Sri Ramana's grace falls upon us, the supreme reality will be revealed. Since he is not bound by time or even by the limitation of place, he will not wait for some suitable time or suitable place to bestow his grace upon his devotees. He has far greater compassion than even a compassionate mother who has no plan that she will give her baby milk to drink only when it cries. Hence, even without our crying for it, he will bestow his grace. O Bhagavan, innumerable are the wrongs from which I, this poor creature, have escaped by your grace, unknown to myself. You know all of them, but I do not know anything except enjoying the bliss of being saved by your grace. O Sri Ramana, those who have taken refuge at your feet are protected perfectly, not only on one or two occasions, but on more than a crore of occasions. From many incidents that happen in their life, this is a truth that is clearly known to the hearts of your devotees. The state of abiding in the heart as it is the ineffable and most excellent state. He who nurtures the fruit of such self-abidance by sowing the seed of clarity of mind and by watering it with the divine grace is only or self-realized or celestial perceptor Sri Ramana. We and all our possessions, beginning with the body, are in truth only the possessions of Sri Ramana. When the responsibility of saving us and protecting our possessions is borne by Him alone, why should we worry about anything in our life on this earth, thinking it to be either pleasure or pain? Where is any such thing as wrong, evil, harm, or suffering now? The Almighty Sri Ramana, who exists within the heart of everyone, who unfailingly helps me at all times, and who cannot be banished from my mind even for a moment, has brought me close to Him only to take me as His slave. Therefore, whatever He now does with me is only happiness for me. How can anything that He does hereafter appear to me as something undesirable or painful? He knows the best of all. Leave it to Him. Be calm. Believe Him most of all, then rest the mental storm. Not believing His grace, but thinking one's own individual effort alone to be a very great consequence is mere foolishness. Is not the unreal help which one unreal man renders to another unreal man experienced by everyone in this world as real? Therefore, O Sadguru, the embodiment of grace, the sole reality, is it impossible for you to save me by dispelling the unreal ego? What doubt or wonder is there in your being able to help us thus? Unless our Lord Sri Ramana, who is the form of God, Himself bestows His divine grace, who can by his own effort attain that heroic state of firmly abiding as self, having clearly known one consciousness other than the body to be the real I. The great wealth that exists in enlightened sages is only the subtle secret of how to be still, abiding in perfect peace as the mere thought-free existence consciousness I am. Therefore, how wretched it will be if one greedily desires to attain from them mere worldly pleasures such as gold, wealth, or fame, which only make one suffer in delusion. Instead of eating the fruit that is in your hand, why do you desire to eat the unreal fruit which is seen in a mirror and which is merely a reflection of fruit in your hand? Is the reflected fruit an object which can be eaten and give real enjoyment? Similarly, instead of drowning deep within the heart by keenly attending to self and thereby enjoying the bliss of self, which is ever shining there, why do you desire to enjoy the pleasures experienced through the five senses of this perishable body, which are merely an unreal reflection of the true happiness within you? For those who seek the self, not only self but also other benefits will automatically be attained in full. But if one desires and makes effort to attain worldly objects, know that they will be attained only partially and to the extent of one's endeavor, and that self will not be attained at all. If we deeply ponder over the natural earning of all living beings to remove their mysteries, it will be decidedly known that the sole aim for which the whole world is striving is only to remain always in perfectly imperishable bliss. If the people of the world still do not cease making efforts, the conclusion we must come to is that they have not yet attained perfect happiness, is it not? Whoever among the people has obtained complete contentment and has therefore ceased making any kind of effort is truly one who has attained all that is to be attained. Having limited and transformed oneself into a body, and having transformed the knowledge gathered through the five senses of that body into the world, one sees that world, which is nothing other than one's own real self, as objects which are other than oneself, and one is thereby deluded with likes and dislikes for those objects. Such confusion alone is what is called world illusion. The non-dual state in which you do not see yourself as the body and as the any objects of the world, and in which you clearly know that which exists is only you, who are one, this alone is the state of God. Whichever you like is possible. It is possible for you to remain in whatever one of these two states you like, either in the state of delusion, in which you are deluded by seeing yourself as many, or in the state of God, in which you realize yourself to be the one. When, by one's own inexpressible power, one imaginarily sees the one real self as many objects and thinks oneself to be one among those objects, then one's own natural self-love, which transcends thought, will assume the form of a thought and will appear to oneself, the individual who imagines thus, as desires for those objects which are seemingly other than oneself. It means, what is called love is truly nothing but the non-dual love, which is the real self, has for itself in the state in which it alone exists and shines. And what is called desire is nothing but the dual love, which springs towards other objects which are truly not other than self, in the state in which the one real self seems to be many objects. Therefore, the only way to put an end to desire is for one, by means of one's own perfect freedom, to use one's own inexpressible power to see self as one and not as many. In order to see self thus as one, as it ever really is, one must cease attending to the many objects which seem to be other than oneself, and must instead attend only to the first person singular feeling I. Of all things, is not oneself the most beloved? When one limits oneself by imagining oneself to be a body, one sees all these things, which are truly nothing but one's own self, as objects other than oneself, and hence one has a desire for those objects. That desire is only a distorted form of the true self-love, that is one's own very nature. The love which one always has for oneself is not a thought. That supreme love is one's own real self, that is existence, consciousness, bliss. When a wrong knowledge arises in the form of a thought, whereby one mistakenly sees the oneself as many objects which are seemingly other than oneself, even the true self-love will become a petty thought in the form of desire. When self-love, which is not a thought, forsakes its own real nature of mere being and springs towards other things in the form of desires, it becomes ever-moving thoughts. When love remains as the thought-free love for self, instead of becoming thoughts in the form of desires for other things, that state of self-abundance is true tapas. This original love for self, which has now become the three desires, will cease to assume the form of thoughts and will remain as supreme bliss, only by means of self-realization, the state in which one sees all the five elements and the entire world constituted by those elements as not other than oneself. The love for happiness is only the love for self, because self alone is happiness. But if one imagines that this world, which is nothing but self, is something other than oneself, then on account of self-love, the objects of the world will seem to be objects of pleasure, and hence the love for that self which appears as object other than oneself will assume the form of desire. This is the great wrong. When the true knowledge dawns that everything is only I, then the extroverted love which desirously springs towards other object will remain pervading everywhere in the form of mere being and will no longer spring towards anything else. The love that thus remains as mere being, having ceased to move in the form of thoughts, alone is Shiva, which is self. Since self is happiness itself, so long as one sees other things which are in truth only self, how can one not think that those other things are pleasurable? This alone is the reason why all living beings, beginning from the celestial beings and including men and all other creatures, are drowning and burning in the great fire of desires for external objects. When our true nature of mere being is transformed into the nature of rising as an ego, know that the three real aspects of our nature, namely existence, consciousness, and bliss, will seemingly become their opposites, namely non-existence, ignorance, and misery, and will thus assume the form of opposites. Just as a single ray of white light becomes 7 different colors when it passed through a prism, so the single and undivided existence consciousness I am is seemingly differentiated into the threads when it is passing through the petty senses. When we limit our true nature of undivided existence, consciousness, bliss, by wrongly accepting an insignificant body to be I, desire arises for those objects of the world that are favorable to this limited I, and aversion arises for those objects which are not favorable to it. This desire and aversion are a twofold reflected shadow of our real nature, which is bliss or love. Likes and dislikes, which arises as a reflection of bliss, existence and non-existence, or a twofold appearance assumed by the ever indestructible existence, knowledge and ignorance, which arises as a reflection of consciousness. Know this truth by abiding as self, which is existence, consciousness, bliss. Only by the experience of self-knowledge will all desire be burnt and destroyed in such a manner that they can never again revive. Nobody has ever overcome the power of desires merely by fighting and struggling for any number of years against the wandering nature of the 5 senses. Know that this indeed is the reason why our father Guru Ramana always gave the advice, know yourself, and unfailingly taught the path of self-inquiry as the most powerful practice and as the only weapon to destroy all the desires existing within us. In Sanskrit, they classify the desire for wife, son, and wealth as the 3 desires, whereas in Tamil they classify the desire for land, women, and gold as the desires. But these are found to be not 3 desires but only 2. Let me say, what are really the three desires born out of darkness of ignorance? Listen. The desire that we have for wife or women and the desire for son can be taken as one desire, namely the desire for relationships. Otherwise, the desire for gold, the desire for wealth, and the desire for land can be taken as one desire, namely the desire for material possessions. What then is the third of the three desires? It is only the evil desire for praise, fame, honor, appreciation, or recognition, which makes one hanker after the proud and vain glory of feeling, I have renounced the desire of all these four: wife, son, land, and gold. The desire for loving relationships, the desire for material possessions, and the desire for honor are the unacceptable three desires. More than the first two desires, the third one is very dangerous. Know that the non-raising of the ego, which rises either with the feeling I am having this particular desire or with the feeling I have renounced this particular desire, is alone true renunciation. Even after renouncing with a little discrimination, love for relationships and love for material possessions, many wise people become a prey to this desire for name and fame, which has the power to destroy their discrimination. Therefore, know that true renunciation is only the state in which the ego I does not rise, having renounced the liking to enjoy even the honor that results from the renouncing of relatives and possessions. Wise people say that the desire that one should become an object of honor is indeed despicable. Why? The joy which results from the honor is experienced by oneself, is it not? Therefore, even the desire for that honor is only selfishness. Hence, the state that is devoid of the ego, which feels I and me, is alone the state that is acceptable to sages. Those who experience the sufferings that result from desire for relationships and desire for material possessions will finally one day or other become disgusted with these desires and renounce them. But the desire for honor that comes to the one is a very delusion that is skillful in concealing and not showing the dangerous harm that lies in itself. Therefore, people will find more and more joy in this desire for power and honor and will not sink from it. If a person who thinks I, who am exalted in many ways, am a separate individual, my fame is flourishing among many people, pauses and considers carefully about himself, inquiring, who am I, this separate individual? His ego will perish, and thus he will conquer and destroy all desire along with its root. Trying to destroy the three desires, which retaining the ego, the feeling I am this body, which is the root of all rising, is utter foolishness. Just like trying to cross a river riding upon a crocodile as a raft. The destruction of the ego, the original sin, is alone the destruction of the threefold fire of desire. Therefore, in order to destroy all the three desires, the only way is to destroy oneself by inquiring, who am I, who have these desires?